Okay, so I do apologize about the previous little glitch that we had. Looks like this should be able to work out just fine now. Let's see. All right. There we are. Okay, so what we'll do next is we will basically round out these areas a little bit more. Yeah, there we are. So again, the more geometry we have, the more freedom we have to make adjustments and changes, make the hair not look so stiff. Yep, there we go. Now again, this is going to be kind of a case-by-case basis depending on how you want to approach this. But I want to make sure that everyone has all the options available to make the best possible choices for their hair. So, but again, we were able to get this far because we did the heavy lifting on a lower poly count. Yeah, there we are. And you can even use this as a start for the back of the hair as well. But before that, I just want to take a look at the back of the hair. So yeah, that does tend to be go down a little bit like what you're seeing over here. So yeah, I could actually just take the back of what I have in this case. And before I go any further, I am going to save this again. Again, if you have a situation where something's vastly changed, it wouldn't be a bad idea to make a new save altogether. So if anything else, we could use the last part as a teaching moment. Very cool. Okay, so basically, once again, Shift D. And I could use this as a starting point for the back of the head. Make sure this is exactly 90 degrees. And once again, I can use the soft selection to help me. Now, I'm not using the symmetry in this case. In fact, I'm turning that off. But I am going to use the soft selection quite a bit. And I can bring this over. Again, if it ends up being a situation where we need more geometry, we can always add that in at a later time. And at this point, it's just basically a lot of sculpting to basically make this work better. Now, if necessary, you can even add lots of minor strains in this as well. So I basically can make another mesh and do something similar with this as well. But I'm actually kind of happy with how this is coming, so I'm not going to knock this that much. The hard part in this is just basically making sure that you're going in the right direction in all situations. So for example, this is way too far out, so I'm just bringing that back. And if you find yourself in a situation where it's difficult to say which is which, sometimes it's not a bad idea to have multiple views. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to go in this view for just basically click and dragging this down. And I could have this one for my different sides in case I find it difficult to kind of keep up with everything. So I'm going to turn off my X-ray shading because that's what's currently on. There we are. Now I know that some people have really long hair, so this actually could be one way you could approach this without adding a lot of polygons to your mesh. Oops. Oh, gonna go over there. And temporarily going to turn off the soft selection so I can bring this over. Again, sometimes if you have to look inside the mesh, 4 can be your friend. And there we are. And more of this I could basically get done a little bit later, but I'm pretty decently happy with what I have here. I think I'm going to add a little bit more for this area. I have to hit 6 so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, there we are. So I'm going to add a little bit of extra hair to that spot. So the way I'm going to approach this is I'm going to take this area over here once again, Shift-D to make a copy, and then I'm going to rotate this over. Now what I'm going to do that's going to be a little bit different, could help those who wish to, let's see, yeah, could help those who want to make a little bit more wavy hair, is I'm going to basically make this in a way that's going to curve in this fashion. So basically I'm just selecting the whole thing, I'm rotating and bringing this over like this. Of course, it always helps to remember to select everything when you're doing this. There we are. And again, it usually helps to try and get the main shape first. So basically going over here, taking the whole shebang, scaling it down so it fits this area a little bit nicer. And then try and sculpt this up. So in this case, I might want to go back to my X-ray mode so I could kind of see what's going on here. And once again, turning on my soft selection. I think I'm going to change that to a 5 for now. Yep, I think I might that. Oh, Actually, that one was kind of good, so I'm going to put that back down. But before that, I'm going to move this down a little bit more. And again, it's just about getting the main shape first. Now what I'm doing here as well is, since the other part of the hair has a kind of curve look to it, I'm trying to emulate that as well, which is basically just the first footsteps in what I'm doing here. There we are. Okay. All right, so here's the tough part. Basically having this fit all around this skull. Well, basically I'm just going to bring it in here first. And fit this the best it can go. And again, I'm getting these areas first because these areas tend to be a little bit on the trickier side, but I'm just making sure that they go in. There we are. Now in this case, I'm not taking chances. I'm just doing this one at a time. Although, I think I could actually do this with the edges. Yeah, there we go. And if you have to move some elements around a little bit too, then so be it. There we are. I think one of the most difficult parts about making hair is the patience, because when you first take a look at this stuff, and I won't blame you, it's a little hard to see the end goal right away, and a lot of people end up getting a little frustrated with this, and once again, can't blame a person for feeling that. But if you're willing to stick with it, you can eventually get some hair that looks pretty decent. There we are. Okay. And once again, if we're trying to get a look similar to what we had previously, I can add some more geometry. Yeah. Actually, before that, I'm going to add a little bit more geometry over here. Insert edge loop. And I'm going to bring this up a little. Bring this up a little bit. Nice. So I might end up actually keeping this because I'm kind of digging how this hair's going. And then once that's done, again, wouldn't be a bad idea for me to modify, go to the center pivot, and again, I'm going to just use some insert edge loops to add some edge loops going like so. I'm just bringing that back. Bringing this in. So that's going inwards, cool. And some of these you're going to have, in some cases there's no shortcut, you just got to go in there and get your hands dirty. There we are. Now again, the little point that's going over here, that's completely optional. I just wanted this to show off how the hair is going in these situations. So you can choose to put these in or not. And I'm just moving these in. There we are. Now again, every time you make a lot of movements, it's always a good idea to double check your mesh. Yeah, I'm digging where that's going. So there's still a little bit more that we could do with this, or at least that I could do with this. I could probably move a little bit more to the other side as well. That's completely up to how we decide that we want to finish this off. But I think this gives you a pretty good idea of how the hair could be done. I'm going to actually play around with this just a little bit longer. But what I'd like to do next is I want to show how to wrap up the mesh. So I'm thinking where this is going. Cool. Okay, so the next video, again, we'll be wrapping things up with the actual mesh itself. And hopefully you found this educational, at least in terms of how you can make the hair itself. One last thing I did want to mention is if a person wanted to, after they're done with all this, if you think the hair is a little bit too flat, you could also take the time to extrude these areas as well. So I almost went away a little bit too soon. Sorry about that. So now this part, again, I would only recommend doing if you feel that it needs it. But you could add a little bit of an extrude to each of these areas to add a little bit more depth to it. So yep, just going to extrude, use the blue arrow. Yeah, I'm kind of digging where this is going. So I might actually keep this hair this way after all. Hey, worst case scenario, all this hair can be smoothed after the fact. And here's what it would look like. Kind of digging that. Only thing that kind of stinks is the pointiness kind of goes away, so that's a bit of a call you have to make yourself. And worst case scenario, it is relatively simple to get rid of if you should need to. But just for now, just so it's going to be a little easier to see the hair, I'm going to keep it like this. And now, I'm finally done with this. So thank you for checking this out. And again, we will be wrapping up the mesh to basically fix up any last details and such. Thank you for viewing.